Um, there are some pretty cool people that I found on the side of the road. Um, Jackie and Chris, they're gonna take part in this too as well. Or I should say, Christoph. He studied a lot of criminology in college, so today he's gonna kind of give his take on some different things. We're gonna talking about the Texas killing fields today, which is gonna be pretty sweet. So there's quite a bit to cover with this. It's probably going to be a two-part series as well. So I don't know if a lot of people know about Texas killing fields. Obviously, it's in Texas, and it refers to a 25-acre stretch of land in League City, Texas. Which I'm trying to think. Oh, it's between Houston and Galveston. So I kind of know somewhat where that is. I've never been out there before. Um, There was 4 young women that were discovered between '84 and '91, but they said there's, like, still an ongoing investigation with it. I think they're at, like, correct me if I'm wrong, like 33 now or something. Um, so yeah. So we're gonna kinda dive into that. Jackie's gonna start out and kinda give you the whole rundown and, kinda give you a history on the Texas killing field. So you'll have to take that mic all the way over to you, or you can just hold the mic. Don't matter. You can just take it and hold it too. So here's Jackie, one of the people I found on the side of the road. So she'll give you her input on it.
Side of the road, Jackie.
Side of the road, Jackie.
So, like Tim said, the Texas Killing Fields is a stretch of highway on
You
Interstate.
have to hold it.
So, like Tim was
There
saying,
you go.
the Texas Killing Fields is a stretch of Interstate 45 between Houston and Galveston, where over 33 bodies were discovered between from the 1970s to 1991. The most notorious area within the Killing Fields is actually a 25-acre piece of land known as Calder Road Fields. Now, this area isn't just fields; it's not grass, trees, things like that. There's marshland in it too. With that being said, this area has been described as the perfect place to commit a murder due to its remote location, highway noise, and refinery sounds. One of the victim's father, as well as the director of the Killing Fields movie, both shots stated if you screamed as loud as you could in the middle of the fields, no one would hear you. If you ran, no one would see you or find you, as there is nowhere to go. With that said, very few of the victims or disappearances have been solved even with the help of police and the FBI. During this time period, the police would often dismiss the cases as runaways or just dismiss them due to their lifestyles and jobs. The first instance of this is two 15-year-old girls who were trying to hitchhike their way to Houston, Debbie Ackerman and Maria Johnson. Both were last seen on November 15th, 1971, attempting to hitchhike to Houston, where they were spotted in an ice cream shop before vanishing. Their bodies were discovered 2 days later on November 17th, 1971, partially nude in a Bayou, New Texas city. Witnesses saw a white van stopping by a curb to pick up the girls, agreeing to give them a ride to Houston. 2 days later, the body of a 19-year-old was found in the same area. And 3 days after that, the body of another 13-year-old.
That's crazy. There's quite a bit with this that we'll try to get in here into and try to digest here. Um, Now they have some suspects, if I read correctly, that they did take into are doing time. I don't know if they've passed away or not now, but they do have some suspects. Um, Key suspects: William Reese, Edward Bell, Clyde, and Mark. William was a convicted serial killer, confessed to murdering Laura, Jessica, and Kelly in '97, leading police to their bodies. He was already imprisoned for kidnapping and attempted murder. Edward, another convicted murder. Bell confessed in '98 to killing 11 girls in 1970s. Geez, including some of the killing field victims. However, he was never charged with these murders due to lack of evidence, and he died in prison in 2019. So, what, like 6 years ago now? And Clyde, was a local man and neighbor to victim Laura Miller. He liable for Miller's death in 2022 wrongful death lawsuit brought by her father. Um, so yeah, it's looks like so you're talking about the four girls, Heidi, Laura, Donna. Looks like they were the four specific cases.
And Laura's father, Laura's father was actually the one who made that statement that if you go out in the field, no one's going to hear you. He took a gun and shot it 4 or 5 times to see if anyone would call the police, and stood there for an hour and a half with no results.
Jeez. So yeah, that's 25 acres. That's pretty huge there. So well, Texas too, you got to think out there. I mean, you got a lot of fields and open land that nobody's really around, I'm sure.
Hurricanes, the
Yeah.
hurricanes, the heat index, like it gets 110 most days in the summer. That would take away evidence, body, blood, DNA, all of it.
Jeez.
Do you know how the first victim was found?
No, I do not.
A guy was out walking his dog and letting him run in the field, and the dog came back with a human skull in its mouth.
Oh, jeez. That's right. I did see that. Yeah. 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 Bring me that bone. Come here, buddy. You know,
What's that you're playing with?
what are you playing with there? Oh, no worries. Just a skull head. Um, yeah, that's right. Her skull. Okay, her skull was discovered in the field April 1984 after a dog dragged it home. Yeah, Heidi. Okay, and Laura, the 16-year-old, disappeared September in the same field. So yeah, it's crazy to me. Is it one person or they have several different suspects? Is it multiple people? Is it one? I mean, and the fact that they haven't solved this and they're up to like 33 bodies now, however many years later, decades later blows my mind how they don't have nothing on this yet. I don't know, Christoph, what's your
I
take?
think, you know, over that period of time, I mean, similar to Bundy when he was traveling across the United States and randomly, you know, killing females. What makes these guys so dangerous is that they're killing people they don't know, and I think that's one of the biggest things here is that I think they had a couple actual murder convictions in regards to some of the females that were found in the killing fields. Um, but I think a lot of the other ones they never got any kind of closure to, and that could be. I mean, there could have been 10, 15 guys. I mean, this could have been just a good place to dump a body. Um, because as you were mentioning before, there were options for a couple different guys or a few different guys. There were serial killers present in this area at that time, and you have no idea. Like that, you had mentioned Edward Bell.
Yeah.
He had a very questionable past. The guy grew up. Um, his father actually, when he was growing up, encouraged him to rob, to steal, to rape, to assault people, and that kind of thing. I believe that he had received physical abuse from one of his cousins, and also from a Boy Scouts thing that he was involved with growing up, which led to actually, I think, in the late '60s, Edward Bell actually exposed himself to minors on a couple different occasions, in which um, I guess the first one he ended up doing time in a psychiatric ward, and then
Oh wow.
the second he actually served a little bit of time um, because I believe he actually exposed himself to a policeman's daughter. So
Out of
of
all
all
people.
people. So, but the guy actually got away with quite a bit throughout his life. I mean, who knows what he was up to throughout the '70s. The guy wasn't arrested until '92 or '93. He was actually arrested outside the United States. They actually arrested him in
In a Mississippi?
Panama City, and
Oh, okay.
how they actually found him. It was an Unsolved Mysteries episode.
Oh,
It was one
yeah.
of the first, I think it was a Texas rendition of Unsolved Mysteries, in which he was actually on the show for a murder that he committed against a guy. I believe his name was Larry Dixon, which was a Marine, and Larry Dixon had caught wind of him exposing himself to young girls, and he was a father of one. He ended up hunting down this guy Bell, and I think that Bell shot him with a pistol, and then another dude I think shot him with a rifle and killed him. And that's what he ended up doing time for. But the guy was present through that period of time. I think a lot of his crimes took place in like Pasadena. I think his father moved him around the area in Houston. So he was in the area between Galveston and Houston during that time period. Now he didn't drive a white van. He drove a white and red GMC pickup truck, which I guess was
It could have been close
it
to a
was
white
it,
van.
it was close.
But
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
that time period, there was a big oil boom, and Houston was growing, and people were coming in for entertainment and for activities and things like that. So he could have been just traveling all along and
Yeah.
passing along. It could have been somebody completely random.
Well, Edward Bell's father, I guess, worked as an oil rigger. But I mean, if you lived in the Galveston, Houston area, in that period of time, you probably worked on an oil rig. There's probably a pretty good chance of
Or in
Yeah,
the
I'm sure.
refineries.
that. Yeah, that's what they do.
There's a Netflix documentary on this too, which I started to watch, which is pretty good. And I think I read that they made a movie on this in 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
They did. The director was one of the ones who went into that field and screamed, and no one heard her. And if she tried to run, no one would have found her.
Oh, okay. See, I haven't seen the movie, but I started watching the documentary on it. Got a little bit into it, and there is a lot. I mean, that's why we're splitting this up into two parts because we could dive into this and talk for
Yeah,
hours or days on
there's
this.
just so many options, and there's so many people involved. I mean, so many deaths, and so many people in that area that could have committed these crimes. And now that we're so far removed from that period of time, it's kind of hard to digest all of this and any kind of information or evidence that might be remaining from that is pretty much moot at this point.
So there is actually a lot of backlash against the police departments and FBI down there for the lack and loss of evidence that they did have. People are calling
Oh,
for more information. They're trying to revisit these cases, and the evidence has just disappeared.
yeah, that's how does it disappear?
It's got to be intentional.
Something, yeah, uh, somebody's hiding something, or I don't know. I mean, and then yeah,
And
I
how
don't
much
know. There's
evidence do they even really have? I mean, because, like you said, at 110 degrees, like rigor mortis sets in, the decomposition rate of the human body is going to be so exponentially rapid due to the fact that you're in an outdoor area with wild animals and that kind of heat in a wet atmosphere. I mean, that's you're not going to last too long out there before that evidence vanishes.
yeah, yeah. It's saying, was it in here? In 1989, Donna asked her sister for a copy of her birth certificate so she could travel. So Hastings mailed the birth certificate to Donna's home in Clear Lake, and then she never heard from her sister again. So that's kind of odd. Um, just see, there's not a trace. There's two choices. You can believe she's no longer with us, and they started a new good. Lost her first name. I'm not gonna fuck that up. Um, she said, "I couldn't believe that Donna had, run away. I just kept saying she loved her kids." So yeah, you could probably rule that out. I mean, but never know. But what if she does have a whole new life right now and she's had it for all these years,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
Right.
yeah.
It's better, or she just off the face of the earth, not wanting to be known.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier, though. I mean, you come across cases like this uh, where I guess in this case it was a lot more children, but at the same time, um, prostitutes die and that kind of thing. The cops put a whole lot of effort into trying to finding these people. It seemed like a lot of these girls had one, a very not too many things in common, but one thing they did have in common seemed to be that a lot of them were displaced. A lot of them were, I moved away from home, or I didn't belong there, or I had been there for a short period of time, or that kind of thing. It wasn't a whole lot of people specifically from that area that were set there, lived there their whole lives, knew everybody, that ended up going missing. I mean,
Yeah.
So, a lot of the media coverage that would have happened, say if these girls were more well known or had different lifestyles, one of the victims was a cocktail waitress, and the police dismissed her disappearance and that side of the case because of the way she lived her lifestyle as a waitress. Back then, she would have been considered loose in the terms because of her job.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't expect, prostitutes to be out in Texas, but I guess they're
oh,
everywhere because it's just open roads and fields. I mean, most of it. I don't know. Like I said, I've never been there, so I can't. I'm not trying to judge it, but I guess I just didn't expect, hookers, prostitutes, whatever. Don't get offended if you're any prostitutes out there because I'm not calling you by your proper name. I just didn't expect them to be out there.
BTC, Tim. Come
Yeah, yeah.
on.
Sorry about that, Christoph. So, and it says in here too that they had actually they're trying to change the name of it instead of the killing fields, the healing fields.
It's
Oh, they were trying to.
Miller said, "Yeah, we're actually going to build a little park there. We've got some plans." So it's like they're trying to cover it up, kind of the fact that they've screwed up and they no longer can investigate more. So it's like, well, let's put a park here. Let's kind of just, yeah.
so the road that was back there in 1771 was a gravel road. In the last couple years, they finally paved it. That area was just being a residential suburban area when these killings happened. So even if you build and develop and put a park there, everyone's gonna remember what that is.
Yeah,
It's never gonna
Yeah.
lose that
they're
meaning.
slapping in neighborhoods. So I mean, what are you gonna pay for a house that might be sitting on top of a burial site?
Not only
Yeah.
that,
I mean, you
there's
don't know.
there's 4 crosses for the victims that have been made permanent there. How are you gonna turn that into a healing place?
And then we talk about the remainder of them, and what about the rest of them that they didn't find? Because if you can honestly tell me that over that period of time you found that many bodies in that sort of an area, and someone can solidly say to me that there is absolutely no chance of there being another body laying out there. I mean, that seems crazy.
Yeah, I bet there's more because if they've already found 33 now, um, since what, 1970s, eh, and they originally had 4 and then it kept going up and up and up and now there's 33. But are people still actually committing murders and dumping them there?
So
That's another question.
people are still vanishing along that route as of recently. There's more people
Oh,
disappearing in that area. It hasn't been broadcast, it hasn't been directly linked to that, but they're disappearing along that stretch of highway.
yeah, the I-45, they
Mm-hmm.
call it. Okay. So they are still doing it. So yeah, I don't know. I guess that's why there's 33 now because I bet some of those are probably current too. But yeah, I think renaming it or giving it a park, I mean, I get it trying to for the families of, victims and stuff, but like you said, Chris, it's going to be always known as that. Um, what are you going to do? You're going to build a house there? Everybody's going to know it. It's like, what's that?
The area of Castro House, where they tore it down
Oh,
and put a
yeah.
park right over it.
Castro. Yeah. They tore that down and put a park there, which I'm sure a lot of you, listeners and viewers probably know about that Ariel Castro with those, with the
Amanda Bear and
girls that
shooting
he
the two suits on
kidnapped.
the
Yeah.
shelf.
Mhm.
Amanda Bear and them. But yeah, so This whole thing is just I didn't know too much about it until you guys brought it up and we figured out we were gonna discuss this, but I didn't know too much about it because a lot of the stuff that I cover, I'm going to is closed cases. They're doing life or they've been killed in prison, whatever, Billy Bob ended up playing with their butt, something, I don't know, but in prison, we all know what goes down in there. Anyways, but this is crazy because it's an ongoing thing that has never been solved decades later, to me. I think it'd be pretty cool to go out there sometime and kinda check that site out, you know?
I'm heading to Houston in January for a work conference.
See?
Yeah, I would appreciate it if you wouldn't drive up and down.
Yeah, maybe that's not a good
I
idea,
don't know.
so
Yeah.
but, so the oil field yeah, this whole thing is just wild. So I-45 actually dead ends into the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
Okay. So you've been to Texas then before, right, Chris?
I have not.
Oh, no?
Actually,
Okay.
I have not. I know I got a lot of friends there. A lot of friends. Actually, a good
Um,
friend in Gus. But,
We should go see him.
so I mean, given us a little bit of your, background, you did some studying in college, Christoph,
yeah,
and, I
worked
was
on
I
school.
I wanted Chris to kinda he's gonna talk a little bit about that, because it's pretty neat to sit and listen to him talk about the, theses and papers and stuff that he used to have to write and different things, and it's kinda cool because that's why I started this whole show is I kinda wanna get into the mind of the actual killer, You kinda wanna dissect it more. I always wanted to know why did they do what they did, and I think we talked about that before. It's not just like, oh, the gruesome scenes and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but I always wanted to get into it, like, what makes them do what they do, Dahmer, we know about that and stuff, started bringing the roadkill home at a young age, and his dad was, nobody really said nothing. I think his grandma was like, "Oh, yeah, I thought it was kinda weird that he was doing that, but I didn't think nothing of it," you
Yeah.
know?
Animal organs in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bundy, he just, for some reason, younger girl, college girl, obsession, fetish, whatever. Um, but I think if I remember correctly, he was abused and molested as a young child too from somebody in the family, or it might have been his dad. Most of them have that background. Do you believe with your studying and stuff throughout the years that that kind of stuff, do you believe it really ties in and makes somebody do that? I mean, because there's all kinds of people in the world that have crazy past
Yeah.
from molesting or raped or whatever, but
Yeah.
not all of them are going out killing. So do you believe it's something like that, or is it more of a mental?
Yeah, I don't. I hear what you're saying, and they do. I mean, a lot of those guys do have a checkered past or something that may have started out with molestation or abuse as a child and that kind of thing. But as you mentioned, it does not necessarily mean that it's going to manifest itself later in your life in the form of you know killing people and throwing them in the woods. It just doesn't. So I mean sometimes, but anyways, yeah, I studied criminology for a number of years. I had every intention of getting involved in some aspect of federal law enforcement, and it always interested me too. Why exactly are these people doing what they do? Unfortunately, in this case, in this specific case, I mean, you got a lot more to talk about because it's not just one guy. Obviously, it's multiple. And like I said, with that Edward Bell, like he had a very awful childhood, but maybe these other guys didn't. It's difficult to tell, what drives some of these guys. They did, I believe the FBI at one point had done they had done an actual profile on what they believed would have been the typical person who would have committed these kind of murders. Obviously, it was male. The behavioral unit for the FBI, I mean, they did amazing things. It's amazing what they can actually take a crime scene and they can piece it together and tell you that this guy is a white male. He's got blonde hair or green eyes, or he's a certain height and has a certain type of past or certain like personality characteristics and that kind of thing. Being able to break it down to that just by evidence that they located crime scenes, but um, I always thought that was just absolutely incredible. And I always wanted to get involved and to be able to do something like that. So I studied behavior for a number of years and enjoyed every minute of it. Unfortunately, I didn't end up getting into that line of work, but still, this heavily interests me, which is why I'm glad you had us come join you this evening.
I always wanted to do forensics.
Yeah, yeah, and forensics is interesting too, but
I didn't go that field because after having a kid, I don't think I could process anything that had to do with children.
yeah,
Yeah, true.
that's tough. You got to be the right kind of person to be able to deal with this kind of stuff. All the respect in the world to the officers and the people that and the families that were involved in this thing, that had to deal with and are still dealing with losses of children and things of that nature.
So yeah, it's so pretty much what you're saying is that it's kind of combination of, multiple things is what you kind
Yeah,
of
I mean,
think that
you
gets
you
into that.
could call it like, I mean, some people might be born with this. Some people may have you know, um, medical issues that led to mental disorders, things like that. Or you may have people that also were environmentally um, influenced in a way in which it built them to be what they are. So I guess it depends sometimes in a lot of ways, you know, how people are structured and how people grow up and who they are, and whether you believe that it's predetermined that people are just going to be who they're going to be, or is it environmental? And I mean, that's been argued for a number of years, whether or not those environmental impacts at a young age led to terrible things. Because, like you said, some people are exposed to terrible things and turn out to be great, productive human beings. And then some people are exposed to, and people have perfect lives growing up and end up being serial killers. So it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah. Now, another question I have is I've heard killers and stuff in a lot of, television shows and documentaries and stuff. Some of them try to say that they don't even realize when they're killing what they're doing. It's almost like they black out. Do you think that's possible too? And I know you're not like full blown professional, and I just want like
No.
your input since you studied a lot of this stuff. So anybody listening, don't take this to the news and media and be
Yeah,
like, "Well,
right.
this guy said this," and
This is what we talk about when
this
we get
is
around.
this is
Yeah.
kind of the stuff that we all talk about. So I really didn't find these two on the side of the road, which I kind of figured you are. So they live next door to me. They're both great, people. So and we kind of all get into the same stuff. But anyways, I don't know. I mean, I kind of do believe that some of them may black out
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
realize what they're doing. But I wonder, I mean, it's got to take so much anger to really get you to black out. I mean, I don't know what would cause that, you know?
Sure. I
I
mean, you could
mean,
call it mental disorders, you could call it schizophrenia or things, other issues that people have. I mean, and I'm not a psychiatrist and I'm not a doctor, and
yeah,
I'm not in a position to give any kind of medical advice or
yeah.
make claims or anything
This is
like
just
that.
Christoph.
But like even Dahmer, I think when he was down the road when he was being interrogated and that, they had once at one point asked him like, "Hey, why'd you do what you did and this and that?" And I think at one point his answer was kind of like if you could figure that out for me, I'd really like to and that was
Yeah, I
just,
remember
that was
that.
his point of view. I don't think he was necessarily sure. He knew that he had urges. He knew what those urges were. Why he had those urges, he didn't know. You
Yeah.
know, and he came from a very nice household. His parents were not bad.
No.
So it's difficult to tell where that manifests.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, um, yeah, like he did. He came from a really good background and a good household and stuff. And I've heard multiple ones, speaking of what you were just saying, that say that it just feels good. I mean, there's some crazy ones out there that are like, "Oh, it just felt right. It felt
Sure.
good when I felt
Yeah.
the knife and go in and this and that." But, Dahmer may not have really I mean, he had I guess that's kind of the difference where between us and them is that we all have like an urge for different things, but we necessarily don't act on that stuff. They do. So it's something that is it's causing them to act.
Right.
Actually, like when they get that feeling like, oh man, I want to go do this, I want to go do that, I want to kill somebody this. They actually act on it.
Right.
Like we all get mad and we say like, man, I'm gonna kill him, blah blah blah, but we don't actually
Well,
act.
and that's the thing is that what exactly drives that sort of behavior? Because when we were Jackie, stop trying to get when we we get mad. I mean, a typical person gets angry at somebody, and their murder is caused by anger. It's a crime of passion. Like those are two very valid reasons why people have murdered people in the past, or committed serious offenses and that sort of thing. But what's interesting is a lot of these guys, like you were saying, like pyromaniacs, like they actually find sexual gratification in fire,
Yeah.
or some of these guys, the most terrifying ones are the ones that are killing, not because they're angry and they're not mad or anything like that. It's not a passionate crime. These things are caused by a grandeur or something like that. If they have voices in their head, or they feel like they're working for God, or
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, there could be a number of reasons, or sexual gratification, or I mean, a number of different reasons. But those are the terrifying ones because those are the ones that leave you motiveless. And without that motive being present, you end up having these crimes which don't get solved
Yeah.
because these people are killing people that they don't know, and they're not doing it for a specific reason. They're doing it for their own internal gratification, which is a lot more terrifying uh, than somebody killing somebody because they're angry.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And then you got the ones that leave their own mark too. That
Right.
to
Yeah.
that to me is almost like a game, because they want investigators and the police to find them and be like, whether it's a sign they drew on the wall or on the person with blood or whatever. I can't think of any right now, top my yeah, BTK. Yeah, exactly. It's the ones that do stuff like that. And then you get into, I think, Chris, you and I were talking about this a couple days ago, where I think is it by law or whatever, or for the police that you're not considered an actual serial killer until it's like five or more victims or five or more that you've killed, if I'm not mistaken. Which is, I think it has to be like five different places, um, and
Yeah.
five different bodies,
See,
obviously.
I think a lot of people have defined it different ways. I think if you probably Googled that online, you probably could come up with a plethora, a myriad of different answers as to how people would try and define that. Because, I mean, just because you kill five people does not make you a serial killer. I mean, people do that in a crowd of people, and you wouldn't refer to
True.
a serial killer, but how exactly do you define that? And actually, I had a class where we probably spent the better part of 2 weeks talking about how to actually define that. And
Oh,
I don't even know out of 30 people in a room, we actually ever came to a real good conclusion as to how exactly to pin that down, you know?
yeah. Well, I did Google it here. Just a little bit of background fact here. I don't know. To be considered a serial killer, person must kill two or more in separate events, separated by a cooling off period or a time between murders.
Right.
This is widely accepted standard for serial murder established by the FBI after a 2005 symposium. So the key components are two or more victims, separate events. They must be distinct, not a single continuous act. And then the cooling off period, I didn't even know about. There must be a
Yeah.
significant period of time between murders, which can range from days to
And I
years.
and I think the reason behind that is because you want to prove that there was actually premeditation for two separate events. So you have premeditation for one specific event, and they end up killing three people. Now that may be maybe they killed one person, and the other two are collateral damage. To say, but
Okay. Yeah.
honestly, but that cooling off period is basically saying that under a different set of circumstances, maybe they have premeditated murder. I mean, it happened again,
Yeah.
and they did it for a completely, maybe it was the same reason, but it was a completely separate instance.
Okay. And then psychological motivation, kind of what you were talking about. These killings are typically motivated by psychological reasons, such as thrill or pleasure that we just talked about, rather than by a single unified goal. So, pretty
Right.
much what you were just mentioning. So, yeah, it's great. For some reason, I thought it was five or more, but I guess it's two or more. So, Jackie in class here has her
Yeah,
hand
whenever
raised.
you
So,
can.
go ahead and take the
So,
microphone.
actually, according to what I was reading recently, they've made changes to what documents a serial killer. The popular understanding of serial killers closely matches the profile FBI used for several decades. In 2005, the Bureau redefined some aspects of the term serial killer, and so the meaning has changed in some ways. Taken together, here is what those changes mean. The FBI's current definition of the term serial killer is the serial killer may commit to as few as two murders, may have one or more partners, and they may commit the murders without a cooling off period between the crimes. Those are just some changes to what defines them now. Do you know who the actual was considered the first US serial killer?
I've heard it before, but I don't remember.
H. Holmes with over 200 victims.
Oh, yeah, H. Holmes.
His whole hotel was crazy.
Jeez. Yeah, well, we'll get into that one eventually on down the road for sure. And then you have, kinda coming back to this again, the fields where it's not really been solved is, Torso Killer, Cleveland Torso Killer.
Right.
It's still
That's
active.
that's still, active too as well. I think they had a suspect, but they, for some reason, if I remember correctly, they're not sure. It could be a woman or a man, if I remember correctly. I did, on my old podcast years back, I did a, episode on that. I'd have to go back and
Didn't somebody pass away maybe or something like
I
that?
think something along those
I
lines,
don't know.
yeah. So, I mean, we're not far from that. Speaking of Cleveland, Torso Killer here where we're at, we're only about 45, 50 minutes from there. But,
Yeah, that killer was also known as the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, and they don't have an
yes,
official murder suspect because they haven't been apprehended. But the cases were from 1934 to the 38, with the investigation still ongoing.
that's right. That's what it was. Yeah, the Kingsbury. I do remember that now. Um, so yeah, it's kind of jumping around here and kind of going back to what we were just talking about, Chris, with the serial, killer thing. I guess there's all different types if you really look at it, kind of what we were discussing. Um, they're the ones that do it for the thrill, and then there's the ones that don't do it for the thrill. And then you may have the ones that have that really messed up background And then you have some like, Dahmer who didn't have that. He was never molested or raped. He was never really beaten by his parents. So, but then you do have some too where you hear the ones, speaking of the ones that may have been abused by parents, where they end up acting out and they end up killing either the mom, the dad, or both because they get so enraged
Oh
from
yeah,
years and years growing up of being beaten.
like allegedly the Menendez brothers.
Yeah. And then they realize, some of them realize after doing that that they actually liked it.
Yeah.
So then they may go on, you know? Yeah. Um, yeah, brothers you're talking about, Menendez, that's a whole crazy thing too. But yeah,
I wouldn't call it serial.
no, no, but it's a whole other thing. Yeah, they had
Yeah,
years and years of all that shit going on, and they
yeah,
finally just had enough of it. But that's not the way to do it. That's not what we're
allegedly,
saying
yeah.
here now, so
That
don't.
was the case. Yeah, you're right.
But no, it's pretty it's I don't know, it sounds weird, but it's pretty neat when you really get into it. I think the classes that you took and the stuff that you really dived into, I think that would have been pretty cool. And I know you said you have like a long 7-page paper that you wrote on. I forget what it was
Oh
now.
yeah, yeah. I actually wrote a writing intensive course. I actually did a experiment. Um, Basically, it was a 37-page paper on whether or not heavy metal music had an impact on psychological behavior and negative behavior. And I feel like I've definitively proved that metal music does not have an impact on you either way, and it does not make you a bad person. So all of you metalheads out there, rock on.
Yeah, put the
Uh,
horns up. No, but
I've vindicated us. I've proven us innocent. Yeah.
so what, kind of breaking that down, because obviously we're all, metalheads and, rockers here in this room, but I've had people too tell me before, like, hey, if you're in a down mood or this or that, that maybe it's the choice of music that you're listening to, or maybe that
Yeah,
personally that
yeah.
music makes me happy. Personally, it puts me in a good mood. A lot of people hear it and they're like, man, this would make me so mad and angry. They're screaming. So, in a kind of summed up quick version, instead of 37 pages, what what did you come down to that kind of proves that you don't think metal music has that effect?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was as experiments over time that I did, and it was just a whole lot of research based on my methods were basically to prove that it was similar to like what we were talking about, that these people had listened to metal music their entire lives and had no sort of negative feelings, no sort of um, you know, or social interactions and that kind of thing. But I think, a lot of things don't stem from what you see. There's a lot of biased statistical research out there that would have you believe that there are impacts from sort of environmental situations or things that that aren't necessarily true. When you look at statistical research, you have to really kind of get into it and look at what was done, how the research was done, and whether or not there was any sort of biases. I think I had mentioned to you the other day, you know, they said that there is a correlation between ice cream sales and the crime rate being up.
Yep.
You know, well, yeah, it's like, well, yeah, the crime and ice cream really, yeah,
I just
yeah,
had ice cream last
yeah.
night, all right?
Let's be honest. I mean, yeah, Tim had a lot of ice cream last
Yeah.
night, and by no means like he wasn't outside vandalizing my house or anything like that.
I was sleeping.
But the fact of the matter is that the connection you make, crime rate is high because it's summer. What do they sell during the summer? They sell ice cream. So it's funny how you look at statistical research. You can't always believe what someone shoves in your face. Ask the questions, look at how the research was done, and try to take into account whether or not who was performing that research had some sort of intent prior to engaging in the study to begin
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, and I didn't know nothing about that ice cream thing until you were telling me about it a couple days ago. But so hopefully the milkshake I had last night didn't cause anybody to go out and screw anybody up because it was a pretty big one. But anyways, yeah, it's man, I could listen to your background and listen to you talk about this for days. I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, the whole metal music thing, yeah, I've had people before tell me that, well, negativity and all that could be caused
with. Oh
by the
yeah.
things you watch or the things you listen to and this and that. And it's like, no. And when you tell people that you're doing a show, that I do a show like this and stuff, some people are kind of like, oh, that's cool. And then other, people are like, it's kind of weird,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, I'm not doing this for that. I'm doing it because I like learning. I like we said, getting in the mind of them and trying to figure out what makes them do it. And we won't ever really fully know, but yeah, it's crazy. Like you said, research. Wikipedia, don't get all your research off of there because you know how Wikipedia is. Some people do that. As I'm on Wikipedia right now in front of me, but I'm just taking some notes and stuff. But yeah, the going back to our whole topic here, Texas, killing fields, it's the whole thing is just the whole thing is really crazy how and when was the last victim found there, Jackie? Did you know?
From what I've seen so far in stuff I've looked at, 1991 is the most recent documented one,
Okay.
but there are documented disappearances still going on in that area. So they're not out there conveniently linked to this, but the last legitimate known victim is from 91.
But I wonder how many cuz I'm sure they had, cadaver dogs and all that kind of stuff going through there. How many times can you go through all that, fields and stuff and miss a body? I mean, I don't know. I'm probably wrong. I'm sure there still might be some out
Well,
there, hopefully not, but
so those fields are again, they're marshes. It's known for flooding from hurricanes, just general flooding and severe rain. There's been incidences of snow, so it freezes them, the thawing, the heat index of 110 degrees. Those bones will eventually break down from all of that or get washed away with the flooding.
Or an animal carry them off.
Exactly.
yeah.
There could be more bodies in that field, but you're never going to find them or the bones because of the weather that's there. There
Yeah.
used to be the big oil boom. So families, camps, things like that were set up there. Then you have the refineries down the road. There's all sorts of reasons why they would not be able to link them directly to that.
Are the what do you call it? Um the oil, what's it? Fields or whatever it was. Are they still active and still working and
They are. So in the time period when the murders originally took place, ExxonMobil was building one of the biggest plants in that area. So thousands of people moved there in order to have a job, work on the fields, make money because of the oil boom. So there are still some that are active in that area.
okay. So I mean, yeah, there still could be bodies out there. There still could be I mean, because if you think about it, these some killers are probably thinking like, "Man, they haven't solved this, so when I kill this person, I'm just gonna throw them out there,"
Yeah, what
because
a great place that this place is not great.
yeah, I mean, because how's it gonna get linked to that person, specific person, unless they leave, fingerprints and that kind of stuff, but
And again, those fingerprints, any DNA, any evidence can easily disappear because of that weather.
so fingerprints can go away with, the heat and rain and snow, stuff like that, they can. 'Cause I thought once they were on there, I mean, that they were gonna stay on the body, no?
Well, I think that obviously your skin's going to be eliminated from your body at some point.
Yeah.
Where that's not going to be a thing. My question actually, and Jackie and I were talking about this earlier, was my question was, did they ever actually come to the conclusion as to whether or not they were working in a body disposal site or whether they were actually looking at a murder scene. Did they actually, did these people actually die on site in this area, or were they displaced there? Now, if you actually had an actual body as evidence to be able to discern whether or not that happened, you can tell whether a body has been displaced from an area, because if you die laying on the ground, and your blood will actually pool to whatever side of the body that is actually touching the ground. So it'll actually look like bruising on one portion of your body that's coming in contact with the earth. And typically, when they find a body that's been displaced and they have bruising and all that pooling took place, and they're laying on the side of their body, and that portion of their body is facing the sky, you know for a fact that they actually did not die in that position. They had died elsewhere and were put into that spot.
That's a good way. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, and that's true because a lot of them they were some of these girls hitchhiking or anything. Where did they get picked up at?
Right.
And they were probably most likely not murdered there. I mean, some of them could have been, but
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. They really don't mention that if you go
Maybe he
back and
was in
look
a
in the
car.
research.
Maybe he's in a truck.
Yeah, it could have been.
Maybe,
Yeah, it could have been in the car. Could have been in the truck. Classroom Jackie has her hand raised, so go ahead.
4 of the victims were actually found in a line with the same amount of distance between them, with their hands bound and partially nude from the waist down. I don't know if that's exactly where they were murdered, but it's supposed that the murderer was able to move between the 4 victims while they were in various stages of decomposition.
So were all four of those murdered at the same time from the same person?
They were all found in the Texas Pulling Field area.
At the same time or at different times?
Different times, but all within the same distance and various stages of decomposition.
but then they could have been placed there at any point.
Yeah.
But 4 of the victims were found there, which means it's along the same as one certain person killed at least those 4 girls.
Yeah, that because
That's true. They could have tied it to one individual person because they knew where they were put.
yeah, he strategically placed them. So yeah, that is one murder, but yeah, that I guarantee you was all different times. Um, but another question too that they don't really mention is, did he pick up all four of those? Yeah, at different times, but did he pick them up and kill them the same way?
Yeah.
I mean, he placed them all the same way at four different times, which is crazy. That goes back to what we were, talking about before is he took the time to figure out the same distancing between each of them, tying their hands behind their back and stuff like that. And it's just like, dang, there's a lot of thought that went into that.
Yeah, your methodology for actually creating that situation was exactly the same in each individual instance,
Yeah.
which screams like, hey, this is the same guy. At least for a handful. Now, we're talking about 4. We're not talking about 30.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And so I'm assuming the rest of them were all different places and stuff, which, so we know one suspect is linked to four of them, I'm sure. Uh, but then other victims were probably done by either other people or multiple. But yeah, that goes along the lines of it's kind of like a whole m- you know, what do they call it? Excuse me.
Premeditated?
Yeah, meditated type thing. It's the guy that killed the four and strategically placed them like that and stuff. He had thought about that, but I'm guessing, and I'm not right. I'm sure I'm probably not right, but I'm guessing off of what we're talking about and what we hear about and read about that the girls, the four, were probably picked up the same way and killed the same way, and it was probably some sort of in a vehicle,
yeah.
is what
Yeah.
I'm assuming. Because the one said that she asked for the passport from her mom because she wanted to travel. Well, then they sent it to her in the mail, and then she was gone, which is kind of weird that she left to go travel without getting the passport that she asked for. That kind of, boggled my mind, which I believe that she probably hadn't left yet and got picked up. Maybe she was driving along that stretch of that road and got picked up. But I'm assuming it had to have been on that stretch of road. This guy probably just stakes
Yeah.
out,
And the
you know?
unfortunate part of this is what we got to remember is these people did not have cell phones. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have anything. I think even one of the girls, like the house that she was at prior to vanishing, didn't even have a phone. She actually went to a payphone to use a payphone and ended up vanishing from a payphone. You don't even see a payphone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, this is a different time. I mean, there was a lack of DNA evidence. There was a lack of an ability to actually to to actually use DNA or to process it. Like, I mean, back in the even in the early '90s, you got DNA evidence. It would take you. I mean, it took them like 6 months to try to figure out whether or not there was a DNA match. Now we can do that in an hour.
Yeah.
But back then, they had no way of doing that back in the '70s. You know,
Yeah, true. It's like Silence of the Lambs, Buffalo Bill and stuff. I always used to, when I was watching it, younger days, I always would think when that girl goes to help Buffalo Bill lift that couch into the back of his van, and then remember he asks her what size that you were. I always used to ask like my mom and stuff when we would watch that. Shout out to mom. But anyways, I always used to ask like, why did she go and do that? And it's true because my mom would be like, well, you got to remember times were different back then. People weren't afraid like they are now.
right?
So of
Yeah.
course she's going to go and help that guy when he needs the help.
Back then, there was no beware of strangers, watch for people offering you candy. Oh, the
Stranger
big white
danger.
vans
And,
without windows aren't scary. Back
yeah,
then, it was, hey, you're a really nice person. Can you help me? Or, hey, oh, he's offering me a ride.
that's like Bundy. Bundy used to pretend that he had broke his arm or something, or he would have,
Exactly. Or offer girls ride or
yeah,
his victims rides.
yeah,
It's just like back then, there was no sense of stranger danger or the things that we're taught today.
yeah, yeah. Bundy would go to the beach, and I remember that he would ask a girl he needed help loading his surfboard on top of his
Yeah.
bug,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he would have like a cast on or something, and these young girls would, fall for it, and they would go back to his house, and I'm like thinking to myself, going, "You're leaving the beach, going back to this guy's house
Right.
to
Help him
help
with
him
his
load a
surfboard.
surfboard." Like, you're hanging on the beach, and it's like, "Yeah, you need help with the surfboard? Screw the beach."
I'll put some more info about some of the victims in the group.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of that, Jackie started a official fan page on Facebook. So if you guys aren't already liking us on Facebook, uh Murder Show, it's on there on Facebook, and I post stuff all the time there. And then let's see, YouTube channel, we have it too. If you go over there, subscribe to it, which is nice because in that way, every time before we go live, I usually post it about a week or so or a few days beforehand. You'll get a ding on your phone, and then that way you can just click it. Uh, Make sure you click the little bell there, and we do appreciate it. But yeah, we have the official Murder Show fan page. So if you go over to Facebook and talk about every episode and ideas and things that you want us to talk about, different things. It's going to take time. I'm still working on growing the show, so we'll work on working out the kinks definitely. But TikTok channel I'm trying to create too as well, just because I want to fit in with all the young kids. Uh, but oh, Classroom Jackie has another statement here.
So my dad just texted me. My dad is, you've met my dad.
Yes.
He is one of the nicest, most polite people you will meet.
Yeah, he's pretty
So-
much, Jesus. Yeah.
Awesome guy. Big awesome.
Shout
guy.
out, Christoph.
Shout out to David.
He is respectful. He will give you the shirt off of his back.
Yeah.
Because of this,
he has been known to be scary because it's always been said that the nice, polite, quiet ones are the scariest people you have to worry about when they're angry.
Yeah, I've heard that.
That's absolutely true.
Oh, Christoph's got a story for us here.
No, I mean, I just agree because quite honestly, like I have many friends like that where it's like the bully in school. The bully in the school is not the guy that you got to be afraid of. Now, I've heard in the past that even Dahmer back when he was in school, he wasn't pushing people around. He
No.
wasn't giving people wedgies. He wasn't like running around, like spitting in your lunchbox. This guy sat in the back corner of the classroom and didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
It's typically the ones that aren't angry or mean and outspoken that end up being they're the frightening ones of the bunch.
Yeah, because they end up getting their buttons pushed for so damn long.
And they internalize it.
Yeah, and that's sadly enough to say now, that's the majority of a lot of these school shootings, and it's sad because school shootings when we were all growing up going to school were not like they are now. You almost hear about a new school shooting almost every day,
Right.
and it's just, sickening, and a lot of it is because there was one that I watched the whole trial on about 3 years ago, and I forget the kid had like these big glasses, kind of looked like Dahmer, but he recorded it, excuse me, and started outside and then came in and just went nuts. And I remember they locked all the classrooms down and it was just crazy to me. And it's because he was getting picked on so much. And it's like that's not answer to it. But sadly to say,
Yeah.
that's what happens. And you know, it's crazy to me. Yes, classroom Jackie.
And then you have those ones who are bullied. Like growing up, I was extremely bullied. I had a kid bring a knife to school because he wanted to kill me. Like,
Jeez.
stop that.
Well,
I
we
didn't
saw
wanna
your
just.
school picture, so
All right, that's my fault. That's not the point, okay?
hey, if you guys
Not-
want to see the school
no,
picture, we'll post it on the
No.
fan page for you.
we will not post that. No, that will not happen. But you have those people who end up not like I didn't end up killing somebody or shooting or murdering people, and I was severely bullied. I was pushed off of stages. I was called all sorts of names. I was shoved in lockers. I had a knife brought to school because somebody wanted to kill me, and he had only met me for a week. There's
Yeah,
those cases where people just turn out to be extremely nice, helpful individuals just because of what they went through.
yeah. And I mean, I was bullied growing up too. I was quiet and shy, and I kept to myself. So therefore, I got picked on for that. And in a way, it kind of taught me now to stand up for myself now. Not, I don't do nothing wild, no shootings and shit, but I mean, to stand up for myself and I don't let people walk on me now, per se. But yeah, I don't think you were probably bullied in school, Chris, because you're built like a truck. So in case I know eventually we'll have live stream here. I couldn't get, video to work, but if you see Christoph, he kind of looks like a mix between a Peterbilt 379 and a, in a Dodge 25, Cummins diesel. So
We'll be your guest anytime.
yeah. But I don't know if you were really bullied much in school, but yeah, it's of course the bullying wasn't a whole lot as intense as it is now though, because we didn't have social media back then.
I
Right.
had MySpace. And if
Yeah,
you went
MySpace,
on
but
MySpace,
we had dial up. So when we got online, we were only online for a certain amount of time.
and if someone called, you got kicked off.
Yeah, and you got kicked off, the phone's ringing, mom's, yelling, and it takes you a day to actually download one song that ends up screwing up your whole
Oh
computer.
yeah. You start the download at night, like at 10 o'clock at night, and you were so excited because you woke up in the morning. It was like Christmas morning,
Yeah.
running over to your computer to see whether your song had made it downloaded. Or, no, it ended up having an error.
An error,
saying
yeah.
that
Corrupted
it
file.
ruined your day.
I remember
Remember
that.
when they used to block your internet if you got caught for pirating and
Yep.
downloading stuff?
Oh yeah, I
That
used to do
happened
that.
twice.
Yep. Pirate Bay and all
Twice.
that.
Hi, Dad. I love you.
Shout out to the torrents, torrent files. But no, I think social media has played sadly to say, has played a huge factor on today's society because
Right.
everything is at your
That
fingertips.
makes it very
You can do everything online now and you can look anything up. You can buy anything you want, anything online. I mean, look at the story. Jackie and Chris's son, I'm not mentioning names or nothing, but he had said a couple days ago at school that his friend, he had tossed his phone and his friend accidentally hit the buy now button on something that was over $1,000. I mean, look how quickly that can accidentally be done, you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
So, and then Classroom Jackie, you were saying something about your son today that happened. You said, look at,
Oh yeah, the social media, the bullying through social
yes,
media, the
yeah,
he said, she said,
yep,
all of that leads to so much drama through school that if you don't have the right people, the right adults, the right parents, the right teachers or administration stepping in to help with that, it could lead to that
Well,
serial killing or those shootings.
that's the thing. We're talking once again about environmental factors, going back to what drives people to do these things and that kind of stuff. Does it really impact? And to be honest, I mean, you look back at it. You had mentioned school shootings, Tim, and that kind of stuff. As disgusting and unfortunate as these things are, did they take place as commonly as they do now 30 years ago? The question, I mean, concerns because you look back and it just wasn't widely publicized. So
true.
just because it wasn't in the news does not necessarily mean it wasn't happening.
Yeah, we couldn't really read about it online then.
So you look back at it and everybody gets this wholesome view of how great the world used to be, back in the 80s and 90s where you could trust people and, you felt okay about helping people put their surfboard on top of their bug.
Yeah.
I mean, all that kind of stuff. Did 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 the stuff still happen? It just wasn't. Maybe it just wasn't in the news because they weren't covering it and blowing it out of proportion like they are now. Because everybody, you have so much access to the internet and the news feeds, and you got it on your cell phone, and you're looking at it laying in bed every morning. So maybe it did. You know, maybe everything was just as screwed up 40 years ago as it is today. The only difference is that now you're actually getting to hear about it. So it feels like it's more common. But is it really that much more common?
Yeah, that's true. You bring a lot of good points up there. I mean, it could have been messed up back then. Like you said, we just didn't, we had no way of really knowing that much.
Shout out,
Um, Classroom Jackie.
shouting out to my dad. He said this is really awesome and he really enjoys it.
Oh,
He's
well,
sharing
thank
it to
you.
everybody.
Thank you, Dave. Dave is Jesus.
Don't call him
Um,
Dave.
David.
David, not
David,
Dave.
I'm
He
sorry.
will kick your butt if
Yeah,
you call
don't
him
come
Dave.
after me. You just got done saying he's such a nice guy, and then now he's going to come kick my ass.
Only if you call him Dave.
Thanks, David, with a D at the end. But no, it's all like I said, we could talk about it for days, man.
Yeah.
There's just so much involved. And then, like you were saying before, Chris, that the times have changed before, forensics back then would take weeks, months to get fingerprint reading back and different things like that, semen samples and stuff like that. Now we can find that out in the same day or within a
Yeah.
day,
Right.
maybe 2 days at most. Things have changed, which is crazy to me because it brings me to another good point here. I always thought to myself when these people do these things, it's like when you watch police shows, police chases and stuff. How do these people actually think that they're going to get away with it? I always wonder that. Like they're freaking driving down the road doing a buck 10 and they're running and it's like you don't even know where the hell you're headed to.
You're gonna crash.
You're going to get more police, helicopters, everybody
Yeah.
involved. Do you really think you're just going to be like, all right, I'm going to go pull in the garage and shut the garage door and they'll leave me alone?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I never got that. You know what I mean?
It's like the bank robbery where they, oh, what are your demands? I want a hammock full of cottage cheese. Well, it's one, the unit of measurement is ridiculous. Two, like, two, what's the end game? But like
Yeah.
you're saying, what is the end game, and what you're doing? You got to understand that you're kind of screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, unless you actually, like, some of these guys take the time, like the guys that go into like the actual hardware stores and they buy the rope and the different tools to accomplish. Do you not realize that there's cameras everywhere in the store? And that's how a lot of times investigators go back. They look at the camera footage or the receipts, because everything's saved now digitally, and they go, yeah, this guy bought rope, a knife, bleach, all this shit, and unless he's building a swing set that he's going to bleach out back with a rope and all that and put a tire swing.
9 gallons of Windex.
Yeah, 9 gallons of. It's like, do you not realize, or do they just get in that mindset where they know they want to do this murder, so they almost go numb in the head and they don't think about obvious things?
Yeah,
Does
right.
that happen? Like, I'm being recorded right now as I'm in Home Depot shopping for all this stuff. And then or another one too that happens, and it happened, I forget who the guy was now, but he killed some lady and they went back through his internet history,
Yeah.
how to hide a body, how long, or
You're
what things to clean up. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
that. It was like how to
Yeah.
hide a body properly, how long does it take to fully decompose, all this stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, sure, that's a normal search history, as
Yeah.
the cops are looking through it going, that's fine, not a big deal.
How long
Everybody
does it
searches.
take to poison my wife with antifreeze?
Yeah,
and
yeah. Oh,
rely on
yeah,
the-
yeah.
Just-
Oh,
What did her mom
classroom
get
Jackie's
into?
giving him the look right now.
My,
Oh,
my
No,
dad.
that actually happened in
Yeah.
a thing. Actually, in the dining.
yeah, here in town, and then there was another one where the woman was slowly doing it to her husband because he was, like, abusive and stuff, and she was slowly doing it, and it was making him sick, and he was going to the hospital, and she's letting him go to the hospital, even saying, "Well, let me call the rescue squad," playing this all off like she had no clue. But it's like, once again, don't you think when they get to the hospital, they're gonna run all these tests, and they're finding little traces of that?
They do toxicology
Yeah,
reports, guys.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, once again, maybe it's just because she's so frightened and scared of the situation she's in that she's not thinking about the obvious again. But it's like, I don't get it. Classroom Jackie, you were gonna say something. I don't remember.
Oh, can you see comments on the live when people comment while we're doing it?
I probably could. Yeah, why?
Because somebody left a comment.
Oh, okay. Sorry if I'm missing your comments on here. I'm old to technology, so just wait till you get to be my age and you'll see
But
what I'm
did you
talking about.
you remember like
Yeah,
recently?
we were born in the '80s when everything was awful, as we were previously mentioning.
But I was born in
I just-
'89, right before it
that-
turned cool.
We had rotary phones and things. And
I had a rotary phone in my house in West
Oh
Virginia.
God, the rotary phone. No, I don't see any comment
It was
on here.
still a party line too. So the comment is one of our fans has been getting the attention lately is that police opening up boxes of evidence from 10 years ago to check the DNA evidence and finding out that they've had the wrong person in jail for 10 years.
Oh yeah.
For the killing fields?
No,
Oh,
just
oh,
evidence in
something else.
DNA, yeah.
Wow. So that's crazy, and that kind of goes.
That's commonly happening. People are being, let go from prisons regularly. I think after the year 2000, we had an influx of people that were being released from prisons because of DNA evidence that was proving that.
Really? So that's, yeah, that could you imagine having to go in there and tell them, "Well, yeah, you're getting out today," and they're kind of looking at you like, "What the hell?
Yeah, just kidding.
I thought I was doing life in here," and it's like, "Yeah, we kind of messed up. Sorry about that,"
Yeah.
There was actually a recent case where the DNA was proved to have the wrong person, and the state that arrested them and put them in jail had to pay them a $350 million settlement.
The settlement.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I
They
don't
missed
blame
out on all
them.
of that income.
Well, look at Netflix had what was it, Making of a
Making a Murderer.
Murder. I
Yeah.
don't know. I binge watched that whole thing, but I don't know. I could go on, which I'm going to cover that one of these times
We'll
because
argue it's cool.
I personally don't think he really had anything to do with it. I just don't. And then he got let out the first time, and then investigators were like framing him, and they were forcing his what was that? Was it his nephew? Like forcing him to say these different things that he didn't want to say. I think it might have been nephew or something that was involved or there, but they were like putting words in his mouth, trying to get him to agree. Like they're like, "Oh yeah, so you were there and you saw him with the knife, right?" And he was scared, so he's like, "Yeah," even though later on that wasn't it. But it's stuff like that that's just crazy. Like, why are they trying to frame this guy? I don't get it. Because he was in prison at once and then he got out wrongfully. That's crazy that the comment from the fan there. Thanks for putting that out there. That after 10 years, it was a box. You said,
I know.
was it a box you that they were saying that came or something like that, and it was wrong or evidence in that comment that you were reading. Classroom Jackie doesn't remember.
The DNA
She's a little under the influence at the moment, so
The DNA was what they ended up finally testing the DNA that came up because there was something else that was linked to it, and they found out that the person they had in jail, was not the actual killer.
oh, okay. So then, yeah, so then you're kind of back at square one. It's like, well, shit. Now that person's out, and where's the real suspect at that point? There is lots of cases where you hear where the suspects gotten away with it for 10, 15 years, and then all of a sudden later on down the road something ends up coming up
Yeah,
tying them to that.
like police trying to clear out their evidence lockers and things like that, and they're opening the evidence and seeing it all across the country and finding the DNA and testing it again.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And we have gotten way off.
We
topic.
don't-
That's all right though. That's what's cool about the show.
We're gonna do this 2 parts, and I'll have
Yeah, it's
more-
just 2 parts, and we
I'll do more victim research and see what
We-
suspects and stuff we have for next
yeah.
time.
I mean, that's all right. I want to get off topic every once in a while and get it because all this ends up tying in
Right.
to the same reason why we're here and I do this show, um, understanding it more. And I appreciate you guys being on, tonight. Definitely, Christoph, you're a beast, and Classroom Jackie here.
Classroom Jackie.
But-
I love that.
Well, because I raised my hand when I
But
first
yeah,
listened to
you guys
Yeah.
are great. But if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel here, like us on Facebook, follow it. I'll be doing a new episode every week. I know it's been a few weeks since I've done one, so I was sick and stuff for a little bit. But this is part one on killing fields and serial killers and studying them and stuff like that. We'll have these two back again and we'll cover part two next week. But definitely, if you haven't already, follow us, Facebook, all that good stuff. Like us, subscribe, share it too, please, because I'm trying to grow this channel, doing this for fun. And we went in a couple of days from 10 subscribers to 21. So that's awesome. If we could
Double it again.
double it again. And maybe when we go live on the video, we'll let you see, Christoph's boobs or something. I don't know. But trust me, I've seen them, and it's like looking into a black hole. But anyways, sorry, David. But anyways, thank you guys for being on the show. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Follow the fan page, comment on there. Any ideas, any specific cases you want us to cover, or if you know of any guests, we can always Zoom it, live stream it, whatever. Or if you know of a killer or something, which I mean, I guess that's kind of messed up. I won't ask questions, but figure it out. Eventually, I think it would be cool to kind of get into the prisons and kind of see if we could, but
You
I don't
can.
know. But yeah, eventually later on down the road, Classroom Jackie, she's at it again. When she's got something exciting, she'll like hold her mouth and she'll be like, you know. You could probably hear her from 5 doors down. But
Sorry.
and no, you're fine. But Thanks again for listening in, guys. And don't forget, we're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcast too as well. So just go to any three of those and search Murder Podcast Show. And until next time, we will.